Hey everyone, it's William, and we are going to be going today from a hot summer day in Portland, Oregon to a cold winter day in the countryside just outside of Moscow, from 2025 to 1915. So that will be fun. This is the Grand Duke Dmitri Diary series. We have, recap. All right, already off to a bad start. Never mind. Recap. 1939. Previous video was all about Vladimir Kirillich and what Grunwald, the writer of the letter to Grand Duchess Maria, considered to be his rather shocking behavior, declarations and acts. Declarations that he made that I don't have the text of, and acts like bestowing Grand Ducal rank on Prince Gavril Konstantinovich. And Grunwald was so upset by this that he said basically Vladimir is doing everything he can to discredit the family and to make sure that the Romanovs will never be able to return to Russia. So that's quite a statement. Our friend Grunwald liked a little bit of drama, so we have to take that into account. But anyway, that was the last video. The last 1915 video, Dmitri talked about his really severe stomach trouble. And he talked about this book that he just devoured by French author Paul Bourget called Le Démon de Midi, the Noontime Demon, about a midlife crisis, of all things for a 23-year-old to be reading about. But he loved it. Our cast today, we're out in Usovo, pretty solitary environment. We have Laming, who's present, and then we have a couple of other people who are mentioned, one of whom is Cook and his brother, and then we have a man named Georgievsky, a man named Arseniev, and we have Grand Duke Sergei Alexandrovich Dmitri's uncle, all of whom are mentioned but not, of course, present, some of them even being dead. So we're up to the 17th/30th of January, just for anybody who's just starting watching these. The reason I say 17th/30 is because it was the 17th of January on the old Julian calendar and the 30th of January on the modern Gregorian calendar. And Dmitri himself makes note of that. It's not me adding the second date. So it's Usovo. It's 3 degrees below freezing, but clear and a little windy. That's our weather report, and here we go. I only got up at 10:30. It's frightful how long I lay in bed, because in the morning I feel like I'm in a complete stupor. I continue to have frightful diarrhea, and it's difficult to say why. I went out for a walk with GM before lunch. I wanted to ski, but I quickly got exhausted and couldn't do it. I went home around 12:30. Lunch adieu with GM at 1 o'clock, after which we went outside with rifles. GM managed to kill 1 rabbit. Naturally, I didn't even see anything. We went home around 5 o'clock, had tea, and then I sat down to read. I started the memoirs of Uncle Sergei, written, I think, by Georgievsky, frightfully drawn out and full of praise for Arseniev. I kept going until 8 o'clock, when GM and I had dinner, and then I resumed reading. Later, I taught GM how to play Cook's game, Nap. I won a lot from GM. We had tea around midnight. It's so boring here, and I'm counting the days until Saturday when I can go to Moscow for 3 days, because it's better and time passes quickly. Never mind. It's better to be here than blank. I got a telegram from Cook saying that his brother was killed in the war. So blank means that neither I nor my Russian colleagues could decipher the word that Dmitri ends that sentence with. It's better to be here than blank, but I think we can pretty much fill in that blank. Okay, this idea of the morning stupor. Boy, can I relate to that. I suppose most people can. But it's having a real impact on Dmitri's life because he wakes up, but he can't really get up. And yeah, I know that well, but in my case, I have a very mild epilepsy that sometimes causes these really mild seizures, sleep seizures. And so that's one identifiable reason why I sometimes have these morning stupors. In Dmitri's case, he doesn't know why. I'm trying to think if... I don't really remember him talking about this later in life. So I wonder, is that a symptom of can it be a symptom of depression? I mean, the diarrhea isn't caused by depression, but that could have been caused by the Oi, what is wrong with me today? By the arsenic. Okay, so I don't know. But, yeah, anyway. They go out, they go hunting, and as usual, Dmitri doesn't bring home any game. Laming does. And he was either a really, really, really bad shot or his heart just wasn't in it. Although in this instance, it wasn't a matter of him being a bad shot. It was, he didn't see anything. Maybe he had bad eyes. Okay, the book. So I was assuming that this was a biography. But Dmitri calls it memoirs. And Russian not being my native tongue, maybe there's another way to use that word, vоспоминания, but as far as I know, it's memoirs. And so I wonder if it is indeed Sergei's own writing, but it was edited by this fellow Georgievsky. Dmitri says that Georgievsky, well, he's kind of indeterminate about it. What does he say? Written, I think, by Georgievsky, but I wonder if he means that it was edited. So my Russian colleagues, their guess is that this is a man named Grigory Petrovich Georgievsky, and he was the director of a very important collection, a book collection, a library at the Rumyantsev Museum, a very famous book collection. And so he would have had access to so much, historical works, unpublished things. So did he sort of put this together and put it out as Grand Duke Sergei's memoirs? Unfortunately, Dmitri is not giving us enough information when it comes to that. But he's saying that, he's obviously not into it. It's all drawn out. It's a long, drawn out thing, and it's full of praises for Arsenyev. Well, which seems to irritate him a little bit. He seems to put that and the fact that it's sort of this drawn out thing, he seems to mark those both down as negative things, which makes me wonder, because Arsenyev was a very, very important person in the life of both Grand Duke Sergei and Paul. Arsenyev was Dmitri Sergeyevich. He had the rank of admiral. He was a member of the imperial suite. He was the preceptor or vaspitatel of these two little Grand Dukes from the time they were children, I think, up until even when they were adults, but still had like a trustee until they were I think 25. Grand Dukes had like a trustee over their estate. So that was Arsenyev, and since Dmitri seems to be sort of rolling his eyes that this book is full of praises for Arsenyev, I wonder if maybe Paul didn't like Arsenyev. Maybe when Dmitri was a child, before his father took off for for France. Maybe he'd heard his father sort of tell stories about Arseniev or something like that. Maybe he'd even heard some from Sergei. But yeah, the problem being that we don't know if this text that Dmitri is reading was actually written by Sergei and edited by Georgievsky. You know, and most of the Grand Dukes, there were biographies written about them during their lifetime or after their lifetime. And when I was doing my dissertation on all the Grand Dukes, I found some really good ones. You know, there are some that are just all praise and unrealistic, but there were some that were very good. I remember one in particular about Grand Duke Nikolai Nikolaevich, the younger. I think the fellow's name was Danilov, who wrote it. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a biography or something, or memoirs, dedicated to Sergei. But the thing is, you know, I was able to do such extensive research into what sources were available when I was doing my PhD, granted not as deeply as now, because, you know, not everything was digitalized like it is now. But I found these other Grand Ducal biographies and works, and I never came across this one. And obviously, Alexandra and Natasha haven't been able to find it either, and are also unclear about, you know, Georgievsky. So, you know, something, sorry, I'm having an allergy attack here. Something, you know, for any of you to keep an eye out for. I would appreciate that, and I will, of course, also be trying to find it. Yeah, so filling in the blank. It's better to be here than, it's super boring here, but it's better to be here than the front. That's what he's talking about. And let's see, Cook's brother's death. That, you know, the statement itself is very matter of fact. I got a telegram from Cook saying that his brother was killed in the war, but this is scrawled across the page in the diary. So it was, you know, it was something that Dmitri wasn't just being matter of fact about. You know, and I wonder, nobody, myself, my Russian colleagues, nobody who knows who Cook himself is, let alone who his brother might be. Dmitri told us in one of the previous diary entries that he'd gotten some gifts for his godson, who was Cook's son. But anyway, for now it's a mystery. Well, we know the function that Cook had with Dmitri, going back to when Dmitri was an adolescent, but we don't know his first name or patronymic, despite the English last name, clearly Russian. His brother fighting for Russia and now killed. And, you know, Dmitri's not giving us an emotional response to that. I don't know if he knew the man. He's not giving us an emotional response to that in words, but he is giving one, you could say, in the gesture, in the way he's writing it across the pre-existing text and the page. Okay, so what do we have next time? Well, we're going further with Vladimir next time. Grunwald is writing about an encounter that he himself had with Vladimir in London. He's talking about Vladimir working in this factory in London. Some of you undoubtedly know about that. He spent a year or something just working on the assembly line or something like that in a factory not necessarily in London, in England. And he's talking about this sort of Germanophile influence on Vladimir, even within the British Russian emigre community, and sort of giving his assessment of him as a person. And so, yeah, very interesting stuff. And after that, we'll be going back to Dmitri, but yeah, this is really interesting content, in my opinion. So, our next 1915 diary entry, lots of little things happening, and also Dmitri sort of wondering when. I mean, it's only been 2 days, 3 days, but already anxious to get a letter from the woman I want, as he put it, Balashova. So come back for all that, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.